Hey, what's up, guys? It's Renaldo here. So, this video is going to focus on how the Department of Basic Education is forcing former Model C schools to adjust their recruitment policies to align more with equity, not equality, equity. Meaning that it's the forced bleeding heart syndrome where people and children that have shown excellent results both on the sports field and academically, that they can't be preferred over a child that might not have excelled to that extent. Now, please note that former Model C schools, let's just call them Model C schools because the only thing that really has changed is the name that the government has given them. But Model C schools overwhelmingly is still self-funded. They do get some allocations of funds from the government, but by and large, Model C schools look at outside funding, outside of the government, and also at the parents having to pay the school fees, and then sponsorships, and also children that has potential that can assist the school in upgrading their sports, by having a better sports team, or academically by having a higher pass rate, so parents want to send their children to that school. Well, the Department of Basic Education, led by the DA Minister Siviwe Gwarube, seems to have taken a leaf out of the EFF and the ANC and MK's books by wanting to force equity on Model C schools at all costs. Meaning, if a child is really great at sport or academically really, really intelligent, then that should not give them a benefit. Because, we apparently just want complete and utter mediocrity when it comes to our children and their futures. Now, what am I talking about? Well, before I show you, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. It's absolutely free. It won't cost you anything. Also, don't forget to smash a like button and share this video if you agree with my take on this. All right, let's have a look. Alright, so the Department of Basic Education came out with this notice, South African Schools Act 1996, Admission of Learners to Public Schools Regulations. And then there specifically, as you can see here, by the way, it was signed by Siviwe Gwarube, who is the Minister of Basic Education. As you know, she is from the DA. I wouldn't have expected these type of policies from a DA minister, but yet here we are. I mean, this is the same minister that said that she would fight Bella, and now she's implementing Bella. She has changed the history curriculum to pretty much cut out Jan van Riebeeck and a lot of Afrikaner history, but whatever. So under Section 5 of this document, admission policies of public schools. It says, when drafting or amending an admissions policy, the governing body must ensure that the policy is rational, fair, and takes into account the following: the best interests of learners, particularly the importance of equitable access, and the removal of barriers to participation. Now, the removal of barriers in this case, according to the department and their spokesperson, is academic results, excellence in sport, the parents' salary, being able to afford that the kids can go to school. So, in essence, what they are saying is children that study really hard to do well, and children that really practice to be good at sport and excel should not be given a benefit because of this equitable access, meaning a child that might not be as great in sport or as intelligent and do as well should not be disadvantaged. Now, if we are going to teach our children from this young age that it's all right if you don't study as hard as another child or you don't practice as much as another child, then it's fine. You will still get access just as well as those that studied hard and did everything that they did. So my question then becomes, what motivation is there for the child to study harder, or for that child to work harder to be better at the sport that they love? There isn't, because that is what equitable access gives you. Now, there's a lot of other things, but I think that this is, of course, the most important. It also says here, the demographics and education needs of the surrounding community, including language preferences and the number of compulsory school-age learners. It goes on and on, but the emphasis, of course, is on equitable access. Now, the reason that is important is because a lot of mainstream media outlets, for the first time, seems to have actually reported accurately on the news. And EWN here reports that the Department of Basic Education considers major shakeup of former Model C school admissions. Former Model C schools could be barred from considering parents' jobs and income or students' academic records and sporting achievements when deciding which pupils to admit. It says parents applying to former Model C schools may soon face a very different admissions process if proposals being considered by the Department of Basic Education are adopted. The proposed changes aim to ensure that no child is unfairly excluded from a public school because of their background, financial circumstances, or perceived profile. Okay, we're talking about children here. Among the options being discussed are measures that would prevent schools from requesting proof of parental employment when considering applications. Schools would also not be allowed to use a child's previous academic record, sporting achievements, or leadership roles as admissions criteria. And it goes on, but that is the important part that I want to focus on. All right, now the reason that this is important is that, like I stated earlier in this video, Model C schools or former Model C schools rely heavily on private funding. The government provides just the basics, but overwhelmingly the money comes from school fees and then sponsorships from businesses and parents in the school. Meaning that if the school isn't attractive, meaning their art department or their music department or their academic results or their sporting achievements aren't good enough for parents to consider their kids to go to that school, then what benefit is there to the school to market themselves? Because schools market themselves based on the fact that they have music to offer, because not all public schools have that. They talk about how good they are in their sports, rugby, netball, hockey, cricket. So parents want to send their children to a school where the school has got the facilities to ensure that their child can be the best version of themselves. Now, the Department of Basic Education has come out and said, no. You as a school are not allowed to cherry pick a child that is doing really, really well academically or really, really well in a sporting environment. So what they are saying is you should just accept everybody, even though that child that might not be as good in sport or might not be as good academically. And I understand the aspect that, no child should be left behind. But when you as the government are trying to dictate to a school that is mostly run on private funding what they should do, then that becomes a problem, because you are telling them what the criteria should be and what the measurement is, and then you're not going to compensate them if their sporting goes down, their academic level goes down, or the extramural activities like music, etc., goes down. So you want to pretty much prevent them from making sure that their school stands out more than other schools. Because let's be real, if you are a parent and there are two schools in your area and one of them has a pass rate of 99.5% and the other school has a pass rate of 85%, what school are you already automatically going to lean towards? Of course, you're going to lean towards the school that's got a better pass mark. And then the same with the sporting code. If you want your child to excel at sport, are you going to send your child to a school who loses all the time against other schools, or are you going to send your child to a school where the children have a lot of kids that go for provincial trials for rugby, cricket, netball, or whatever? Of course, it's going to be the latter. But you see, this is the bleeding heart equity that the DA and the minister is chasing over here. Equity at all costs, not equality, no, equity. This forms part of that suicidal empathy that so many people are talking about, where you literally have to feel so bad for other people that you yourself suffer subsequently because of the fact that you're not considering you or yourself or your family, you are considering everybody else. That is suicidal empathy, and you can go and research that term. There's a lot that has been written on it. But I just find it so disappointing that the minister, who is part of a liberal political party, is once again doing this thing of state control. And we've seen this before with John Steenhuisen doing the same thing with state control. And we've seen it with Leon Schreiber, that also, wants to ensure that the state is ultimately in control. This is in vast contrast to what the DA said before 2024 they wanted to achieve. And listen, I'm also getting hurtful talking about the DA failures, but this is a minister for the Department of Basic Education. If the ANC was trying to implement this policy, I would be talking about the ANC minister trying to implement this. But unfortunately, because there are DA ministers that are now implementing ANC policies, I have to talk about it. At what point do you go, why don't we just allow private schools and Model C schools to do what they do best? Because if you look at the state of public schools and you look at the state of private schools and even Model C schools, you will see that there's a massive difference. So why would we allow people that are in charge of the worst type of schools financially to tell and dictate people that are doing better with their schools what should go and what should not go? And the fact that you want to punish children that are performing well in school academically or when they do sport, how does that motivate children to be better? Of course, like I said earlier, if there is a situation where the child does not have equal opportunity, then perhaps find a place for that child. But punishing children that are performing academically and also on the sports fields, it's not the answer. You don't have to uplift the one by suppressing the other. And that is unfortunately the latest DA minister's policy that they want to implement, by also punishing parents that are doing well financially. Oh, so you work hard for your money, you want the best for your children. Well, the government disagrees, specifically the Minister of Basic Education, that is a DA minister. She doesn't want your financials to come into play. She doesn't want your children's talent to come into play. No. It's equity at all costs. I don't know what more I need to tell you with regards to just how absurd this is, not only for the Department of Basic Education to want to implement this, but also the fact that this is a DA minister. Now, this is the same minister that said that she was going to fight Bella, and now she's implementing Bella. She was going to stand up for all cultures and languages, and she's pretty much written Jan van Riebeeck and Afrikaner history out of the history books and accepted that. And this is just the latest one. So at what point are you, as a voter, going to say, maybe actions do speak louder than words? Because once again, you've got words being said left, right, and center by various political parties, but yet their actions show something completely different. And the case in point is right here. Just another DA minister that wants to implement state control and take the choice away from schools that are funded mostly by the private sector and the parents and not the government, but they want to dictate what you and your children should qualify for. And unfortunately, what cannot be considered important in the selection criteria. It is pathetic, it is ANC-esque, and that is why so many people are just saying, well, this party has become ANC light. And honestly, as much as I was against that statement for many, many years, and even until months ago, the proof is in the pudding. You've got John Steenhuisen that doubles down on state control with the vaccination. And now you've got Siviwe Gwarube that is doubling down on state control with who schools can allow into their schools, even though the government provides minimal funding and the parents and the school itself provide the overwhelming majority of funding. They are being dictated to by the Department of Basic Education what guidelines they should follow. This is absolutely pathetic. Let me know your thoughts. I would love to know what your take is on these regulations and legislation that the government, specifically the Department of Basic Education, wants to implement. And that's pretty much all I got to say. Thank you so much for tuning in. Smash that like button, share this video far and wide. Don't forget to subscribe. It's absolutely free. However, if you'd like to support me financially, you can do so by looking for the $ below and then choosing an amount, or you can become a member to this channel by clicking the join button below. And that's all I got to say. Till later, cheers and peace out.
You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre. You don't even know me, but every time you see me, you say, I wear my massacre. I wear my massacre.